Good morning. Good morning. It is a marvelous Monday morning, and welcome to the Bomb TV with Dr. Tanoa Hampton. I am Dr. Tanoa Hampton, where we're transforming lives from the inside out. That's what I said, transforming lives from the inside out. Do you know we have to do the work on the inside? Come on, somebody. We got to do the work on the inside. If we don't take care of our inside, all this paint and powder don't mean a thing. All of the degrees that you can get don't mean a thing. You got to trust God and you got to do the work on the inside. You got to get to a place where you trust God with all that you have. So go ahead and do me a favor. Go ahead and like and share. Invite somebody to this live. I thank you for each and every person who will come on here and catch the replay. I thank you, each person who shows up every Monday morning at 7 a.m. to catch Dr. Tanoa Hampton. What? Me? Not me, no. But I thank you. And I pray that it is the God in me that you're drawn to. I thank God for your life. I thank you that you're even challenging me to continue to step and move beyond my fears, beyond myself. And so this morning, we're going to go ahead and get started, right? You see what we're doing? We are trusting God despite the fear. How many of you all have had fear show up when God is giving you something really big to do, or when life has happened and fear tries to grip your heart? When you're put in tough situations, when you don't know how you're going to get out, when it seems like all the cards have been stacked against you. Am I in this alone? Is it just me that have had this feeling every now and again? Well, I'm here this morning because I need someone to trust God despite the fear. You may be shaking in your boots right now. You may have accepted an assignment. You may be in a position where it's scary and fear is trying to grip your heart. There's a threat to your well-being. There's a threat to your significance. There's a threat to your safety. See, I don't know what your situation is specifically, but I know that fear shows up when there is a threat. But I'm here to let you know that there is an answer for the threat. Jesus is the answer for the threat. Trusting in God is the answer for the threat when it shows up. You got to have something that's higher than you, that's higher than the thing that's bothering you. So what about trusting God? What about trusting God? Y'all know I always got a good story to share with you. I've been in a season of so much is happening in my life, and we don't always live our lives out loud on social media. We try to, come and we put our good face forward here on social media for you, because I want you to be encouraged. But I'm also the person who wants you to know that despite what you see here, there are times that we're going through on the inside. There are times that we're facing things, and I too have to apply everything that I'm telling you, everything that I share with you. And so I've been in a season that he's forcing me to face some things, and he's forcing me to utilize some things. Because see, there's one thing to have a whole bunch of education. There's one thing to have the knowledge. And I told you the last time I was here that we had to apply it. And then it's been application time for Dr. Tanoa Hampton. And I am still applying, because guess what? The enemy, while I'm applying, the enemy has not stopped trying to apply the pressure. Huh? Do y'all know he is trying to apply the pressure? And what I got to do at the end of the day is trust my God with all of my heart and lean not to my own understanding. Who is that for this morning? Will you trust God with all your heart and lean not to your own understanding. I need you to let go your own understanding. And when you, like me, become confused or doubting or distrustful, I'm going to ask you to go to our Father, God, our Father, and ask him for the wisdom and ask him for the understanding. And dare I say, ask him for the measure of faith that it be activated in you to do everything that he's called you to do. It isn't always easy. And there's many examples in the good book, in the Bible. And so this weekend I had been reading Jeremiah, the prophet. Yeah. The weeping prophet. That's how, when I grew up, that's how I understood him. He was the weeping prophet. See, he didn't get all of the pretty words that said that people were going to prosper. He didn't get the words that said that you was going to get a new house, a new car, and a new man. No, he had to give the people some tough words, and it caused him to weep. Oh, it caused him to weep. And sometimes it was hard, and he had to trust God despite the fear that would be even in his own life that will well up in him. Would he do what God told him to do? Will he say what God told him to say in the face of trouble, in the midst of it not being a popular word? How many of you all have been given something to stand up for, and it isn't a popular stance, and it isn't an easy stance? And dare I say, people are coming against you, and there are people who actually want you to stop saying it because they want to only believe. They want to only believe that no disaster will come, that no hard times would come. But there's some sin in this world. Do you know there's some sin in this world? And there's some sin that we've committed ourselves. And the wages of sin is death. And though he forgives us, there's some things we will have to go through. And do you know, though, even in going through, because he's not going to remove them all, ask me how I know. There have been days I've asked him recently, just as Jesus did, to take this cup from me. And he didn't take the cup, y'all. And he told me he's not going to take the cup. He told me that I would have to go through this time. I would have to persevere this time. He wasn't going to move the obstacle. He wasn't going to move the challenge. It was working a greater way to glory in me. It was polishing off my rough edges. It was teaching me some things. It was my testimony being developed. And Jeremiah had the similar story. He had the story. He had the word in his mouth where he would tell the children of Israel, the tribe of Judah, right, that they would face destruction. And the king at the time didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to hear it. How many of y'all don't want to hear it? I don't want to hear it. There's times when I'm like, I don't want to hear that I'm going to have to go through. I don't want to hear that the debt ain't going to be forgiven this time. You're going to pay the bill to Noah. So here he is. He's in this space, in King Jedediah, right? Not Diah, Kaya. Yes, was the king. And as the king in Judah, he had a problem. He didn't want to take a stand. He liked telling everybody they could do whatever they wanted to do. Because see, he didn't want to feel that thing that happens when you have to take a stand and make a decision. For all my leaders out there will be a day that you will have to make a decision. Don't you know that, right? You won't be able to please everybody in the room. No matter how much you want to make everybody happy, you have to do what thus saith the Lord. You have to do what God has told you to do. And so I say, as a leader, wherever you're leading at, I pray that you're asking God, just as I have to ask God each day, to show me how to lead this group of people. Show me how to do the work that you called me to do. Why? Because some days there are going to be tough decisions that you make. And let me tell you, it isn't always easy. See, people want to be the leader. They want to be the one calling the shots. They want to be the one that get to have the final say. But let me let you know, sometimes that comes with consequences. And in the book of Jeremiah 38, King Zedekiah had an issue. See, he had gotten a word from the prophet, but he didn't like the word from the prophet. He didn't like what he gave him instructions to do. See, he was supposed to go and go on and go over there to Babylonia. He was supposed to willingly go. See, if you willingly go to the place you don't want to go, that God told you have to go to, you'll live and you won't die. But see, he didn't want to hear that. He didn't want to hear that. He wanted to hear that they be able to stay in their land and they would defeat the Babylonians and things would be all right. But Jeremiah didn't have that word. And so as a result, doing the thing that God told him to do, which was to tell the king what the king needed to hear, he was thrown in the cistern. How many of y'all have been thrown under the bus? How many people have thrown you under the bus because they didn't like what you had to say or the position you had to take? And see, at the bottom of this cistern, it wasn't water in it at that time. It was mud at the bottom. It was mud at it. And how many do you feel like your feet are sinking in the mud? And see, some things will happen to you if you get no help. You're either going to starve while you're there, you're going to be messed up by the elements, right? Some things will happen to you while you're stuck in that mud, or you will drown, because eventually the cistern, which is designed to hold water, will fill with water and you will drown. And see, the king went ahead with the people who said throw him there because he didn't like what Jeremiah said. He didn't like what Jeremiah had to say. He didn't like the fact that God said to them that they would have to go over and live with the Babylonians. We the chosen people. Now, this is a part of the course. This is the part of the course of the life that you have to go through as a believer, particularly in spaces and places where you haven't always been obedient and you haven't always done what God told you to do. I'm not talking to y'all, I'm talking to Noah. And there's some consequences for it. But if you do what God told you to do, he will spare your life, right? Because if they stayed in the city, they were going to die. He guaranteed him, stay where you are. You're going to die by the sword. Huh? Famine or the plague. So how long do you want to stay in the place that God has told you to leave? I know you've been chosen. I know you feel like that's your land. But if God has told you to leave, you got to go and you got to get to where he would have you to go. And he may send you to a place that seems like captivity, that seems like it can't possibly be where he wants you to go. But you have to get there now because it's going to save your life. And so, no, the land isn't easy to go through. And yes, you are afraid. Do I have any people on here that have been feeling afraid to do the new thing that God has told you to do because it doesn't seem to make sense that he has you leaving from what he promised you to go to something that seems like you're going into captivity, that you're going back to a place that's hard work? Y'all, I've been thugging it out in the street with Jesus for 2 years and he sent me back to work for a company. I didn't realize how much I enjoyed my time with Jesus at home and trusting him in the work that he's given me when I was at home. And now he told me I have to do both because there's some work for me to do somewhere else in conjunction with. I don't get to stop doing this work, but it's an in conjunction. It's an and two, right? And in both. I don't get to not to do the Bomb TV with Dr. Tanoa Hampton. Nope. I don't get to stop doing Bomb Inc. Nope. I don't get to stop doing any of those things. Leader Bomb Global Institute. I don't get to stop doing any of those things. I get to show up every Monday morning at 7 a.m. And I have to be willing to listen to God, to say what he wants me to say and do what he wants me to do. And when he says rest, you got to go rest. When he says temple maintenance, you got to go maintenance that temple. Huh? If I don't do what I teach you all to do, I cannot continue to do what he gave me to do. And so in the book of Jeremiah, we find Jeremiah now thrown in a cistern, right? And he did the thing that wasn't good. in the eyes of the king. He told him, and because the king was a flip-floppy man who just wanted everybody to like him and wanted to be able to say yes and to everybody without consideration for the consequences that it will have. How many of y'all know those people? They just want to say yes to everybody. No, we can't say yes to everybody. As a leader, you have to be willing to say no and do it with love and grace, just as God does, because he loves us, and you should love the people that you care, that you've been giving care of. And so you can't say yes all the time. But the king kept telling the people yes. And as a result, Jeremiah was thrown in a cistern. But don't you know that God always has a plan for his people, always has a plan of protection. He sent another person who also would be risking it, right? Abimelech. Abimelech. He sent Abimelech, right? He's in the royal palace. He got some prestige and he got some honor. And when he heard that Jeremiah had been thrown into the cistern, he went to the king as well. See, he went to the king as well. And in Jeremiah 38:9, he says, "My lord, the king, these men have acted wickedly in all that they have done to Jeremiah the prophet. They have thrown him into a cistern where he will starve to death when there is no longer any bread in the city." Then the king commanded Abimelech the Cushite, "Take 30 men from here with you and lift Jeremiah the prophet out of the cistern before he dies." So Abimelech took the men with him and went to a room under the treasury in the palace. He took some old rags and worn out clothes from there and let them down with ropes to Jeremiah in the cistern. Abimelech the Cushite said to Jeremiah, "Put these old rags underneath your arms to pad the ropes." And he did just what he said. And then he pulled him up with the ropes and lifted him out of the cistern. And Jeremiah remained in the courtyard of the guard. He was in the courtyard of the guard. And so the king goes and now want to talk to Jeremiah again. How many people, once they done something to you and they realize they shouldn't do it to you, now they come back to you, they want to talk to you and they want to have that conversation, but they just did something really foul to you, right? And some of us at times, because the person is in a position of power, you won't be willing to say or stand your ground. But I'm going to ask you to trust God, that if it's what God gave you to do and it's what God gave you to say, then you're going to have to trust God and say it and stand your ground. And that's what Jeremiah did. When he asked him, when he goes to question him now, right? He asked him again, to ask him to bring him to me again. "I'm going to ask you something," the king said to Jeremiah. "Do not hide anything from me." You know how the person wants the truth, but they don't want the truth? Will you trust God that he put a word in your belly? He put a mission in your heart. He's giving you a passion to take care of people, but know that it's going to cause some fear to rise up, right? Because you're going to have to be willing to take a stand when it's unpopular. You're going to have to be willing to take a stand after they have done things to try to harm you. You are going to still have to take your stand. Will you take your stand? And the only way you can take your stand, the reason why I'm here today, is to remind you, you have to trust the God of your salvation. You have to trust the God that called you to the thing, which means you have to be sure God called you to the thing. You have to be sure that you're speaking the oracles of God. You have to be sure that you're speaking what God is giving you to say and not what you want to say. You're going to have to pause for a minute. Pause for the cause, y'all. Did y'all hear me? Pause for the cause right there. You're going to have to pause for the cause. What do I mean? You're going to have to know that you're in a situation, take a moment of pause, talk to your Father so that when you respond, not react, it is what he would have you to say. Come on. And mind you, it happens in real time when you're in relationship with him. And sometimes when you feel like you're a little bit away from him, sometimes you got to go talk to him ahead of time before you head into that meeting, so he can give you the word, so that you are responding with his words, that you are using wisdom and good judgment based on your relationship with your Father, so that when fear tries to come and grip your heart, it won't. That fear may be there, but you're going to face it. You're facing it, knowing that God is with you, knowing that God has called you to this, knowing that God has told you to do that. Who am I talking to this morning? You are going to have to get your faith up this morning. You're going to have to put your trust in God. Get your faith up this morning. Stop letting fear tell you what you can do. Stop letting fear tell you how you should feel. Stop letting fear tell you that you're confused. Stop letting fear tell you that you're anxious. Stop letting fear tell you you can't do it. Huh? Abimelech was so, he had to, right? Because he wanted to get the man that the people wanted thrown in the cistern. He had to go get them. He went to get them out. And so what do you do in that space? How do you handle it? How do you handle the situation when it ain't quite going like you think it should go? And the people ain't quite treating you like the people should treat you, right? Huh? Something has to give. Well, you got to trust God. You have to trust God, y'all. I'm plugging in my computer because the battery acting like it want to die this morning. So I implore you this morning to trust God with all your heart and to lean not to your own understanding, because this is what he ended up saying to him. So after he gets him out, he restates to the king exactly what God told him to do, that you still need to go. You still need to get on over there to Babylonia, right? Because if you don't, when Jerusalem falls, you'll be killed, you and your people. So that's what he did. But Jerusalem fell. He didn't listen, right? He was sieged and he was killed. But guess what happens? This is what it says that I like. It was in Jeremiah 39 and 15. It says, and this is after the fall, while Jeremiah had been confined in the courtyard of the guard, the word of the Lord came to him. Go and tell Abimelech, the Cushite, that this is what the Lord Almighty, the God of Israel, says. I am about to fulfill my word against this city. Remember, I told you, he said the city was going to fall, right? Words concerning disaster, not prosperity. It wasn't a prosperity word, y'all. It wasn't a prosperity word. And for some of y'all, it wasn't a prosperity word. He told you to get from that land. He wasn't prospering you in that land. He told you in that space, destruction was coming. Disaster was coming. And he told you to get from there. And he told them to get from there. And he said, I'm bringing my words to pass concerning disaster, not prosperity. At this time, they will be fulfilled before your eyes. Some of you are watching God's word come to pass because you know he told you to leave that marriage, that relationship, that job, and you stayed too long. But this is what he did to the man of God who had enough faith to confront the king about his decision. He says, but I will rescue you on that day, declares the Lord. You will not be given into the hands of those you fear. Because the truth of the matter is they feared the Babylonians. And he promised Abimelech that he wouldn't be given into the hands of those he feared. This is what he says, and this is what he's saying to you and me this morning. I will save you. Why is he saving them? Because he was obedient. He went and helped the prophet of God. He made sure that he got him out of the cistern. He says, I will save you. You will not fall by the sword, but will escape with your life because you trusted in me, says the Lord. Do y'all hear me? Jeremiah 39 and 18. It just rings so true when you are facing fear, facing going to the space that's not comfortable. That's not where you want to be because it doesn't look like your promised land. It looks different than what you've been doing the last couple of years. And he's telling you I need you to go over there. But there's giants in that land. Wasn't it how the children of Israel, before they crossed over, they came back and sent the report that there were giants in the land? Man, stop worrying about what's over there. If God has told you to go, go. Because he says this, where you're at is going to be destroyed. It won't be a season of prosperity because he told you to get from there. He told you to get from there. And he says in verse 18, he says, I will save you. You will not fall by the sword, but will escape with your life because you trusted in me, declares the Lord. Will you trust in the Lord today? God rewards the faithful. God rewards the faithful this morning. I need you all to know that if you are faithful to the thing that God has told you to do, that if you will trust him despite the amount of fear that may be gripping your heart, if you will trust him, he is faithful and he is just to keep his word. He will reward you. We can trust God and act in spite of our fears and any other resistance that we may face. Because know that when you get there may be some resistance in that land. There may be some resistance in that land. But you can trust God that he'll act on your behalf. Huh? Trust God. Do you hear me this morning? I need you to trust God with all of your heart. I'm trying to tell you, trust God. The data. No, I said before, the devil's in the detail. You collecting data saying why you can't go somewhere, why you shouldn't go somewhere. But I'm asking you to ask God for the wisdom. I'm asking you to ask God for the instructions. I'm asking you to seek your Father so that you will trust him. Huh? God does not forget those who take a stand for him. He didn't forget Abimelech. Why? Because he took a stand. He took a stand for the man of God that got thrown in the cistern because he said something that wasn't popular, that had the people, the king, feeling some kind of way. He took a stand, and hear me, when you take a stand for what is right, know this and do it the way God has told you to do. He will not forget you. He will not forget you. He will not forget you. And it ain't about you. The truth of the matter is, Abimelech didn't act on his helping Jeremiah for his own behalf, right? He did it for the good of the man of God. He didn't act on his own behalf. And I'm going to encourage you today to don't seek to do great things for yourself. Don't seek to show up to save somebody's life so that you can get the recognition. Don't seek to go over somewhere to do some service, because it's service, so that you can be recognized. Do it because God has called you to do it. Do it because the good of the other people. It's saving a life. It's saving a family. It's saving a marriage. Huh? Jeremiah 45:5 says this. Should you then seek great things for yourself? Do not seek them, for I will bring disaster on all people, declares the Lord. But wherever you go, I will let you escape with your life. Don't go seeking it, huh? For yourself, doing the great things for yourself. Do them for the Lord. Do them because God has told you to do them. Do them so that someone else may live. Do them. He's the one who does the uprooting. He's the one that does the planning. He is the God that knows the blueprint on life, who needs you, where he needs you to be, and how he needs you to do it. And again, that goes back, like I said, it's not good, right? If we keep our eyes on ourselves, we can't help anybody else. Because I'm like this. I'm on myself, or I'm in my mirror. I can't see what else is going on in me. But take your eyes off of yourself. Abimelech took his eyes off himself. Jeremiah had to take his eyes off himself and what he knew would not bring him a popular response from the people. But take your eyes off yourself and whatever rewards you think you deserve. Huh? That's what I said. Because remember, you think you're going to help somebody else for you, and somehow you're going to get rewards and recognition. But I'm asking you to take your eyes off of yourself in this moment. See, your trust and the corresponding response to the trust, the thing that you're doing is not really the reward for you. You will receive your reward, but it's really for the people you're called to serve. And if you are called to serve, God will protect and he will reward you. Huh? God will protect and reward you, but you got to be willing to trust God and take a stand in the middle of some tough situation. You're going to have to trust God and take a stand when he tell you to move. You're going to have to trust God and move. There's going to be times when you have to trust God and move. You can't stay in the same spot doing the same thing when he told you to leave the land, because destruction is coming to that space that you're in. Get to the other land. It may seem like you're going to the enemy camp. It may seem like you're going into captivity. It may seem like you're going to work and you got to get dressed and you got to punch somebody's clock. You got to get to where God says your blessings lies, and they're not just for you. It's for the people that you're called to when you get there. But you can't have it on. You can't have your eyes on you. You can't have your eyes on how this going to work out just for me. No, you have to know that God, I gave you my yes. And when you give God your yes, you can't give your yes predicated on how it's going to work out for you. Your yes is a yes to service to God's people. And so the more that you try to focus on you and not on God's purpose, right? Because sometimes you think you're focusing on God's purpose, but the truth is you're just trying to focus on you, how you going to get them coins, how you going to stack them dollars, how you going to get that man, as opposed to understanding that God has given you a purpose. And what is the purpose that is to be fulfilled? And the more that you keep your focus and take your focus off of God's purpose, the more frustrated you're going to be. Ask me how I know. See, when you start worrying about you, it's in your hands. It's in your hands when you're worrying about you. But when you're trusting and you're moving in God's purpose for your life, he is the controller. He's the controller. And the frustration goes down. So I'm going to tell you, don't focus on you. Even in this season of trusting, don't focus on you. Trust in the Lord. Focus on God's purpose for your life. Jeremiah 17:7 says, but blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, whose confidence is in him. Blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord. Are you trusting in God today? Are you trusting in God today? Blessed is the one. Blessed. You hear that word? Blessed. Jeremiah was blessed. Abimelech was blessed. Why? Because they put their trust in God. They didn't put their trust in their own abilities and skills and to get out of the situation or maneuver it. No. So trust in God versus trusting in man. Trusting in God versus trusting in man. Trusting in God versus trusting in man. Trusting in man stunts your growth and your fruitfulness. It stunts it. It's limited. Man will let you down. He will cut off your supply. He will fire you from your job on Good Friday. He will decrease the workforce. They'll have a change in the mission. And then what? Your clients can decide that they don't want to pay their bill. I've had it happen despite a contract, right? So who do I have to trust in? You got to trust in God. Trusting in God produces growth in abundance because of a steady source of water, right? And I'm talking about the steady source of flow, right? Because he told the woman at the well that if you was really knew who you was talking to, you would ask me for this water so that you would never thirst again. Some of y'all been thirsty. I've been thirsty. I got a dry contact right now because I'm dehydrated. I've been thirsty. I am thirsty. My body, remember I said temple maintenance. He told me about my temple maintenance. I haven't been maintaining my temple according to his strategies, God's care plan, right? But when we trust in him, it produces growth and abundance because of that connection to the steady stream of water. When faced with fear, trusting in human beings will cause you to be impoverished and spiritually weak. And I mean, not just the other human beings. I'm talking about human beings called you. Spiritually weak. How many of y'all feel like, whew, I'm thugging it out for Jesus, right? That's how you feel. But I'm going to ask you, who are you trusting? Are you trusting you? Are you trusting man? Or are you trusting God? When fear is there, we tend to want to trust ourselves, what we feel like we can control. But this morning, I'm encouraging somebody today to open your hands and let it go and stop trusting you. Asking you to trust God, for God has not given you the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. Of power and of love and a sound mind. Huh? Will you trust God? Will you trust God? Will you taste and see that the Lord is good? And blessed is the one who takes refuge in him. Psalms 34:8. Will you take refuge in him? Will you run to him? Will you go and hide yourself in him? Will you go and allow him to wrap his arms around you? Will you taste and see that the Lord is good? If you haven't done it before, taste and see, try it out. It's like going to a restaurant and trying out new cuisines. Taste and see that the Lord is good. I promise you, as you eat this book, you will find some good stuff in here. Like I didn't expect to read about nobody's Abimelech in my studies. Oh, but when I saw how his life demonstrated some things that I need to demonstrate in my life, right? I needed to trust in God. I needed to be willing to do what God has given me to do, right? When he gives me unique opportunities to do things that don't make sense to other people, that I got to be willing to do the thing that he told me to do, even when I don't understand it. See, Abimelech taught me that I can trust in God and act in spite of my fears, right? In the resistance I may face from the people around me who may not understand the call on my life, the purpose that God has given me, I have to make sure that I trust in him with all my heart and lean not to my own understanding, and understanding that God does not forget us. That's what I learned. Because last week, I felt like maybe God was forgetting me. I went to do what you told me to do, and I don't know. And he says, nope, you're going to go through. There's some things I'm teaching you. So as much as you think you're there for some people, honey, you are there for you. There's some lessons for you to know. There's some fear that you have to face. There's some things that I am grooming in you for a greater way to glory. Not that you would get any attention, but that I would be glorified. Because my goal in life is not that I be glorified. It's not for the likes. It's not for the followers. It's for my brothers and sisters to join me on this journey of sharing God's word, sharing his love, and coming into relationship with God. Why? So that we can begin to live in a society where God's love is running rampant through our community, and not the crime and not the violence, right? That God's love is what is permeating everywhere that we go. So if I share with you, then you share with another, and then another. And guess what? Now seeds of love are being planted all across our country. Wherever this video goes, there is seeds of love being dropped. And I'm asking that that water, that steady source be poured into your life, so that our communities will grow, and they will have an abundance, and they'll be safer. Why? Because it's where God dwells. It's where his people are. It's where his love is flowing. And when his love is, It translates and it's passed on to the others, and you'll pass it on to the next. Because the fear of the Lord, for those who fear the Lord, you'll lack nothing. For fear the Lord, you his holy people. For those who fear him lack nothing. Huh? Because it told us, taste and see that he was good, and blessed is the one who takes refuge in him. And then the very next verse, it says, fear the Lord, you his holy people. Are you his holy people? Do I have any of God's holy people on here? Or better yet, do I have somebody who wants to be God's holy people, want to be counted in the number? See, taste and see, it's open for you too. For those who fear him lack nothing, because your fear is of him. And blessed is the one who trusts in the Lord, who does not look to the proud, to those who turn aside to false God. Don't look at them other people. Trust in the Lord, because it says, blessed is the one that trusts in the Lord. Are you ready to be blessed this morning? Do you want to walk and live a blessed life, not just in cliches, but in real life? Why? Because you're trusting God with all of your heart, despite the fear that you may have, right? Despite the fear, trust in the Lord with all thy heart. Lean not to thine own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him. Blessed is our God. Blessed is our God. Blessed is our God. Don't focus on you today, y'all. God will reward and he will protect you. God is faithful. Take your eyes off yourself. Take your eyes off yourself and whatever rewards you think you deserve, because when you do that, you're then able to take your eyes and put your eyes on God's purpose for your life. What has he called you to do today? God is faithful to reward those who diligently seek him. Seek him with all your heart. Seek him with all your heart today, because he promises that he will save you. You will not fall by the sword, but will escape with your life because you trust in him. That's his declaration to you this morning, that he will save you and you will not fall by the sword, but you will escape with your life because you trust in him. So despite the fear, despite the challenge, despite what they say, despite the obstacle, trust in the Lord. This has been the Bomb TV with Dr. Tanoa Hampton. I love you all. I love you all. Thank you for continuing to come on here week after week, week after week. I thank you. I appreciate your time. And I ask that you go ahead and like and share. Like and share. Why? Because somebody else may need this. If you're watching me on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. I thank you. If you want to find out what's going on and where I'm at next, go to www.tanoahampton.com. You can schedule a Christian counseling appointment, free appointment there. That's where I'm at. I have some upcoming outdates, but May 20th, we're doing Food, Faith, and Finance. Yes, the Bomb Inc. is sponsoring Food, Faith, and Finance with Minister Karika White. She will be joining the Bomb Inc. Why? Because we got to get our financial health in order, right? And we want to do it based on faith-filled principles given to us from the Word of God. So yes, come join us May 20th at Bright Sea Road in Landover, Maryland, right at the Bomb Inc. We will be there, and it will be a phenomenal time of food, fellowship, and finance. I love you all. I say have an absolutely amazing and blessed day. This week, we are trusting God despite our fears. Why? Because he's promised that he will save us, but you got to be in line with his purpose. I love you all. Be blessed until we meet again, same time next week. Love you all.